In this video, we're going to take a look at multiplying polynomials. Sometimes when people talk about multiplying polynomials, you'll hear the term FOIL. And FOIL is a way that we can remember we have to multiply the first terms, the outer terms, the inner terms, and the last terms. So again, sometimes you'll hear the term FOIL to help us remember what we need to do. And so let's go ahead and use that for this first problem that we've got sitting here. So we're going to take the first term, so x times x is going to give us x squared. Then we have x times negative 9. Remember, we got to keep that sign with what follows it. So that's going to give us negative 9x. Then we have negative 4 times x, and that gives us, of course, negative 4x. And then finally, negative 4 times negative 9 is going to give us positive 36. Often when we multiply polynomials, we're going to find that there's some like terms that show up. And in this case, we've got some like terms right here, the negative 9x and negative 4x. And so let's combine those and we end up with x squared minus 13x plus 36. And now we don't have any more like terms because this has an x squared and x, and there's a constant there, so we're good. That's it. Now, the second problem right here, something that I see students do quite often with this, is try to take that squared and just apply it to each piece that's inside there. The problem with that is that property only works when we're multiplying things inside here or dividing. But in this case, we're adding, so we can't do that because we lose the middle terms. Let's take a look at what I mean there. So we have x plus 12 squared. Remember, that really means x plus 12 times x plus 12. And so what we need to do, again, we could just FOIL. So we're going to take the x multiplied by the other x. That starts out, gives us x squared. Then we've got x times 12, which is 12x. And then we've got another 12 times x. So that's going to be, again, 12x. And finally, 12 times 12 is 144. Now again, notice if I would have just applied this squared to each piece, I would have gotten those outside terms. I would have gotten the x squared and the 144, but we missed these middle terms. So that's what we miss if we don't FOIL it out like we need to. And so in this case, combine those like terms, x squared plus 12x and 12x is 24x plus 144. All right, now let's raise the bar a little bit, because in these lower ones, foiling, well, foiling's not going to work anymore. The problem is we have more than two terms. So it's not, we don't have the first, outer, inner, last anymore. We've got two terms and three terms. Uh-oh, what are we going to do? Well, another way that we can think about multiplying polynomials is just distributing. And what I mean by that is we're going to distribute each term from one of the polynomials to every single term of the other one. And so how I do this, I like to take the smaller one. If there's like this one has two terms, this one has three terms. Let's take the smaller one and just apply and multiply each of those terms together. So we're going to get 2x, negative 2x, times x to the third, which is going to give us negative 2x to the fourth. Then we take that negative 2x again. This time we're going to the negative x. So negative times negative is positive, and 2x times x would give us 2x squared. Then last one, negative 2x times 8 is going to give us, again, negative, because we got a positive and a negative. 8 times 2x would be negative 16x. Now, we've got three terms, but we're only half done. we still have to take this 5 and apply it to each piece, multiply it by each term that's in that second polynomial. So here we go, 5 times x cubed. I'm going to write it below it here. So 5x cubed, like so, plus 5x cubed. We'll put all those together in the end. And then 5 times negative x is going to give us negative 5x. And finally, 5 times 8 is going to give us plus 40. Now we're going to look for like terms. Sometimes there might be more than others. In this case, we have the x to the fourth. Well, that's the only one. So I'm going to go ahead and write that one down. Negative 2x to the fourth. Then we got this x to the third, so let's put that one next. We're writing these in descending order of the exponents, so the x to the fourth, x to the third. Do we have any x squareds? Sure do, right there. So plus 2x squared. Then x terms, ooh, we got 2 of those, so we got some like terms we can combine. Negative 16x, negative 5x, going to give us negative 21x, and finally plus 40. And that's all we can do on that one. We've combined all the like terms, and there we are. Now, this was a binomial times a trinomial. We could also do a trinomial times a trinomial, or even larger polynomials. And I bet you can maybe see that we end up with some very large polynomials right here when we do problems like that. So just something to be aware of. Let me change colors one more time here, and we will tackle this last one. For this last one, we actually have 3 binomials that we're going to multiply. It's the same basic idea. In this case, I think there's something special about these two, so I'm going to multiply those together first. So x, and I'm just going to think about it like distributing. Just take this term, multiply it by each term that's over here. So x times x is going to be x squared. Then we've got x times h, which is going to be plus x times h, like that. We could do this one on the inside here, negative h times x. I should have written it the other direction, but this is okay. Negative xh, and then finally negative h times positive h is going to give us negative h squared. Now, what happened? Look, we've got some like terms in here. The xh, positive xh, and negative xh, those cancel, and so what we're left with is x squared minus h squared. And then let's bring this down. This belongs right here as well. X squared minus h squared. Okay, so it turns out that we're actually just squaring that thing now. So let's see what happens when we do that. Again, we're going to multiply each term by each term in the other binomial in this case. So we have x squared times x squared gives us x to the fourth. Then we have x squared times negative h squared. So that's going to be, I'm going to go write it with the h first this time, which I should have done last time. Usually we do alphabetical. Then negative h squared and x squared is going to give us another minus h squared x squared. And then finally negative h squared times negative h squared is going to be positive h to the fourth. Finally, look for those like terms. We've got this one and this one. So let's put those together, and we finally end up with x to the fourth. There's one of these and one of those. They're both negative, so minus 2h squared x squared, and then finally plus h to the fourth. So quickly reviewing, if we're multiplying polynomials, one way to do it, if we have 2 binomials that are multiplied, like we saw up here, we can FOIL. That's a way to help us remember first, outer, inner, last. We can also just think of it as multiplying and distributing. Distribute the first term to every term that's in the other polynomial, and then distribute the second term to every term. This also would apply if we have larger polynomials, like a binomial and a trinomial. We could do this with even larger polynomials if the problem required it. I hope this video is helpful. Keep working hard on your math. You can do it.